All right, guys, so it's come to that time of the semester where you kind of have to pull everything together and build yourself a full infographic. Now, you've had a little bit of practice with this with the last assignment, assignment 3, where you did a data visualization, and we're going to take your knowledge from that, build on that, improve on that into this next infographic that you're making for an actual client. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the things that you should consider. Okay, so let's talk about designing infographics. So a lot of this will be a bit of a review and just kind of like bringing it together and kind of like the whole picture. Okay, so when you're creating an infographic, you want to create something cool, okay, while avoiding certain mistakes, okay? Now, creating something cool means that you want to choose something that's going to catch people's attention, okay? You want something that's going to be, really popular, perhaps even go viral, okay? Something that's going to get a lot of clicks, a lot of views, a lot of traffic. Okay. Now, you do have your topic. We said it's going to be something about hair. Okay, so what are you going to try to present about hair that's going to be, really cool, eye-catching? What are like the current topics about hair? What are things people like? These are all things that need to be taken into consideration. Okay. And also very, very important, you need to be accurate with your information, okay? Everything else is pretty much considered secondary to your information, okay? All those graphics, images, colors, things like that, those end up being secondary because if you have wrong information, you're going to lose credibility very, very fast, okay? Wrong data just makes you look bad. Okay, it's like making spelling mistakes in your essays, right? You might say, okay, it doesn't really detract that much, but it's just really, really bad. And if you recall the Google page ranking, stuff like that, credibility was a very big thing in Google page rankings. So if you lose credibility, your Google page rank is going to drop, and that's a very bad thing. Okay, so what do we mean by like wrong data or wrong information? So sometimes even just how you show your information can just be wrong or bad. Okay, so we talked about this before at the very, very beginning. Pie charts, for example, need to be out of 100%. When you have something like this, it just gets confusing. So this is supposed to add up to be a whole, and the whole should be 100%, and this just doesn't work. And that just stuff like that just looks really, really bad. Okay. So you would consider something more like this, where you say, okay, these are separate things and a percentage of each of them. Bars need to be proportional, as we said before. So if this amount, 3 million, is 3 times this amount, this bar needs to be exactly 3 times that, not only in height, but also in volume. Okay? So if I multiply that together, I get 4. If I multiply that together, I get 12. 12 is exactly 3 times as much as 4, so volume and not only height. Okay. Proportions are a little bit trickier when you get into circles. Okay, so one mistake that people make is they say, okay, this is a 1-inch diameter, I'm going to make this one a 3-inch diameter, and this is going to be 3 times as big as that. That is absolutely wrong. That ends up being probably like 10 times as big as that if you look at the volume, the area. Okay, so remember area. And if you need to calculate area, I think there was a resource on Moodle that helps you do that I had uploaded there. Okay, so yeah, it's a bit of math. And like I said, if you're not good at math or you're just lazy to do it, just grab that thing off Moodle that I've uploaded. Okay. When you talk about area, be very careful with odd shapes, because if you look at that, And you say, how much bigger is that than that? It's really hard to tell the proportions. So that's generally kind of, let's say, frowned upon. It's not encouraged because it's just hard to tell. Okay, some people do it, and sometimes if you don't need like an exact value, you just need to show that it's bigger. But even still, it does show approximation, and that's often not very good. Sometimes people try to make their charts and visuals nicer, and by doing so, sometimes they just kind of go overboard. And I always call this adding bells and whistles. Right? Sometimes things aren't needed. People just add bells just so it rings more and whistles so they can be louder. But sometimes it just detracts from it. So yeah, I think that just looks kind of ugly. We don't even really know what that represents. It looks like some sort of math, but what the heck is that and what is that? Perhaps finance or economy? I don't know. Okay, but does that actually represent an amount? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. Do each of those represent 5? That's kind of hard to tell as well too. So yeah, don't try too hard, let's say. Okay, so let's talk about choosing a good topic then. So already your topic is set for you, hair, okay, but that means choosing kind of like a subtopic within that. Okay, so what is it about hair that you're going to focus on? Are you going to talk about hair coloring? Maybe there's a certain color that's really in fashion or really kind of like eye-catching at the moment. I don't know, in the last few years, I've noticed a lot of blue and green and pink hair. I don't know if that's a trend or something like that, but perhaps you might want to look into that. Hair loss is often a really big topic. I don't think there's a solution for men's hair loss. That might be a really big one because, a lot of men are very concerned about their hair, right? So something that will attract people. And again, if you're looking at men's hair loss, you'll be targeting specifically men, so you won't have many women viewers, so just be aware of that, okay? So you're already cut your viewer potential by half by targeting men, okay? Which might be perfectly fine because it's not like you're going to get all the population of the world anyway, so if you target just men and you do it right, maybe you'll get a lot of men, okay? So make sure you choose a good topic and something that's going to attract people to look at it, attract their interest, right? Why should I look at this? Sometimes it's trending topics, okay? For example, I don't know if there's like a new iPhone or if there's a new Samsung phone, maybe people will make infographics about that. Or I just recently discovered something called 8D music. So people might be like, oh, wow, that's the new thing, that's the new future. Or there's a lot going on at the moment about coronavirus. So I see a lot of infographics popping up about coronavirus because that's what people are talking about right now. People want to know the statistics about coronavirus. They want to know how many people are infected, how many people are dying, the rate of infection and stuff like that. So people are making infographics to make that information more digestible because there's lots of numbers out there. So whoever can make an infographic that can be more captivating, can show numbers in a better way, those are the infographics that are going to be looked at the moment. Okay, so you might take that and say, okay, what are the hair trends at the moment? So you might even go onto Google, search for hair trends, see what's popular right now. Hair implants might even be popular right now. I recently saw a billboard about hair transplants, so who knows, okay? Thing is, do some research. Do some research, find out. Okay? Controversial topics. I don't know how controversial hair is. Maybe hair color might be controversial, or hairstyles that are acceptable in universities. I don't know. Okay, but people like controversy, right? If you say like coronavirus doesn't really exist, then people can be like, what? Right? And if you produce an infographic, you might get a lot of views in that, okay? But you have to be aware of being credible, negative image, because if you say coronavirus doesn't exist and you can't back that up with good information, people are going to be like, what the heck is this garbage? And then you might get a few thousand views very quickly, but then after that, you're going to lose your name very quickly and lose your audience. Okay. Negative image also goes into, like, let's say you're talking about gay weddings or something like that. Okay. Now, depending on how you present that, you may have the gay population really against you, right? Or you may also alienate the straight people. Okay, so you have to be careful about negative image in those ways as well too. Okay, but controversy does attract attention. That's for sure. Okay. Other controversy, if you say coronavirus didn't originate in China, but was some sort of scam by the United States to bring the downfall to China, and you're able to back that up with stats and good information. Okay, that's very controversial, but again, comes down to your data. Your information has to be really good. Okay, it's also a good idea to see what's out there. Has somebody made an infographic that's exactly what you're planning to do? Okay, and if so, how are you going to make it differently? How are you going to do it better? Okay, did somebody make the same thing, but it's not very good? That's up to you to find out. Do things exist out there? And it's also a good thing, also because it gives you ideas too, right? Seeing what's out there gives you ideas, then you can kind of like focus what you're going to present. Okay, I like that, I'm going to take a little bit of that. I like that as well too, I'm going to take a bit of that over there and kind of pull things together and make something new, refreshing, present things in a slightly different light. Okay. Your key message, very, very, very important. So I often say, if people are going to think of one sentence to take away from your infographic, what would that sentence be? Okay, so for example, it might be, you need to buy this hair product, or you need to take care of your hair, or more and more men are balding, but there is a solution, right? What is the key message? Okay, so you have to define that, and I would think that's a really, really important step. It kind of helps you really focus on what you're trying to do, and then you can kind of build your story around that. How are you going to build a story to tell that message? Right? It's kind of like the moral of the story, right? Children's stories, they have a moral, right? Don't tell lies, right? The whole story about the boy who cried wolf. Okay, the moral of the story is don't lie. Okay, but they build a whole story around that one message. Okay, so here are some examples of one sentence key messages. Okay, so maybe we eat too much beef and it kills our planet. Okay, so I might make an infographic about that. An infographic that says, okay, lots of women are abused, we need to do something. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. When you make an infographic, it should say something. Okay? And people should be able to see that message really, really quickly. Okay, or if they don't see that message really quickly, they should see enough of the message that gets them interested to read further. Okay, the 5-second rule. Okay, so in 5 seconds, if I look at your graphic, if it doesn't tell me something, or if it doesn't attract my interest to keep reading, I'm going to move on. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to skip over your infographic. Okay, so keep that in mind. Your message should be very evident very quickly. Okay. Visualizations when possible. I noticed that in your last assignment, some of you were still very text heavy. Okay, try to use visualizations, and if you do use text, make it like big text that are like 3 words. Okay, 3 words, big text. That's what I'm going to read. If I'm interested after I see those 3 words, maybe I'll read the other parts, the paragraph. Okay, but make your paragraphs small. That if I if I don't want to see it, then I can just kind of skip over it. It doesn't get in the way. Okay, but I should be able to get the gist of that paragraph from your 3 big words. Okay, but impossible pictures because of that picture security or the effect. Right? People are just more willing to look at pictures than they are at words. That's just a fact. Okay, we don't like reading. We like leading. Right? There you go. Okay, yes. Minimize text. Can't repeat that enough. Yeah, because people at first glance, they say, is that worth my time to read? They don't actually read your entire paragraph. Your paragraph could have all sorts of good information, but the fact is, I may not want to read it. Okay? Only if I feel that it's worth my time am I going to read that. And if I see like those 3 big words and I say, oh, that's interesting to me. Those 3 words give me enough information that I want to know more. Okay? Or an image. Right? An image, I'd say that's cool. That's a very interesting image, and I want to know more about that. Okay, here's imagery. Right here in this one, no images. It's kind of hard to tell. My eyes have to go back and forth. There, I can see okay exactly what these things are. I can understand a lot quicker. Okay, and when people see this, people will actually look longer. Right? They might even take less time to look at this one than this one, but the thing is, it's not attractive. And I might just say, okay, whatever, that looks like a bunch of other graphs that I've seen before. This one here, okay, we got babies, we got old people. Okay, let's look further into that because it looks kind of interesting. Okay, so your data, cite your sources, makes you credible. The chances are that people are going to actually check out your sources are probably pretty slim. So I don't know, you can even put fake sources and it at least appears credible. But be careful, if you put fake sources, sooner or later you're going to be discovered, and that's going to be trouble for you. Okay, so citing sources always makes you look good because it makes you look scientific. And if people actually check out those sources and they actually lead to real information, people will be like, okay, this is good stuff. Okay, other things regarding best practice, yeah, don't be vague. Try to find the original source, and if there's a date, recent data is always better data, right, than outdated data. Okay. Other things to include, take a look, there's a infographic, or I think probably the last part of an infographic, where they have things like the company logo, the data visualization, there's a landing page, right, the direct traffic, information about the designer, okay, so that the designer gets visibility, popularity, traffic, that sort of thing. Okay, traffic to the company, traffic to the landing page, traffic to the designer. Okay, all intended to create that that visibility. Okay, there's where you find this information in the textbook if you need to read more. Okay, some links for you to take a look at, again, for more information. Okay, so an activity that I often do in class, but you can probably do this by yourself. Just go around, look at some infographics that are out there, try to critique it. Do they have those things? Like, can you see the message right away from that infographic? Do they cite their sources? Are they good sources? Do they direct traffic? Do they have the information of the designer, about the company, right? Who's the company that sponsors the infographic? So take a look at those. And if you want, you can share them on Moodle. You can just share them in the question and answers, I suppose. I don't know if I'm going to make a dedicated forum to that, but if you want to share something, go ahead and do so. Okay, so there's some things to think about for designing an infographic.